Hello and welcome to the Asian Game on day 5 here at the FIFA Women's World Cup. Our coverage again brought to you by our great friends at SMC. I've come down to Hindmarsh Stadium where Adelaide is hosting its opening game of this tournament tonight between Brazil and Panama, joined by a couple of very special guests alongside me. From the Adelaide United A-League women's team, I've got the coach Adrian Stenta and player Dylan Holmes. Thanks for joining us. I'll start with you, Adrian. You've just come back on a flight, you've been in Sydney, you've experienced a couple of games. What are you making of the tournament so far?
Yeah, I think it's been a brilliant start. To see so many people out in force, full stadiums in Sydney to watch the opening game of the Matildas, but then a neutral game between France and Jamaica as well. I think it's been a really positive start to the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Dylan, you were telling me you've been flying around everywhere. You're going to get the frequent flyer miles up as you continue to fly around the country. Brazil versus Panama here tonight, though. We're going to see a legend of football, not just a legend of women's football, a legend of football, Marta, in her final World Cup. How much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I'm so excited. Marta was a player that I grew up idolizing, and to see her playing at Hindmarsh Stadium, a stadium I grew up going to watch football matches at, is going to be incredible.
Yeah. I'll stay with you, Dylan. A real citizen of the world. I was looking it up today. Born in Brazil, also lived in, if I've got this correct, the US, Chile, Peru, and of course here in Australia as well. Who are you supporting at this World Cup then?
Oh, I'm lucky. I get to technically support a lot of teams, but obviously I would love to see the Matildas win the World Cup, so they're my go-to. But, for whatever reason, if they don't, I have the US, I have England, I have Brazil, so I guess I'm lucky in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Adrian, obviously we know who you're going to be supporting, the Matildas, no doubt. I want to talk to you a little bit about the game in Sydney the other night. As a coach, put your coaching hat on. Well, they knew a day beforehand, but 90 minutes before the match, your star player is out with injury. As a coach, how do you react in that situation?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think you've just got to trust in the players that you've got and the process that you've been through and the system that you're using as well. And look, I don't think it was their best performance, but it's the first group game, big crowd, a lot of pressure. Sam Kerr, their captain, was missing. They got the result, and that's what it's really about. And so I think they handled the situation quite well, albeit I think they can play a lot better.
Yeah, speaking of the performance, did you notice anything different in the way they played without Sam Kerr on the side?
Not so much different. They still played in a similar way that they have been playing for a while now. They're setting up more as a 4-4-2 team that likes to counter-attack it quickly. So I didn't notice too much difference. The only thing is probably lacked a little bit of depth off the bench in an attacking sense. Not sure where Kaya Simon's at and how much he's going to feature coming back from an injury. And now with Sam Kerr down, they seem to have a lot of defenders and a couple of midfielders on the bench. So that's where I think their depth is going to be tested a little bit across the front line.
Yeah, absolutely. One player who's going to need to step up in Sam Kerr's absence is Mary Fowler. You played with Mary here at Adelaide. You're telling me she stayed at your house while she was here, so you know her very, very well. Are you confident that she can step up and fill that void? We saw her score against France in that warm-up game. What are you expecting from Mary in the next couple of games?
Yeah, I think, Mary is a player that everybody should be watching. I think in the last maybe 2 or 3 years, she's really come into her own, and you can see that she has that confidence and belief in herself. And I think you can start to see that she's very comfortable in the Matildas setup now. So, I think she's just going to thrive in that role, playing as that false 10 next to Caitlin Ford in Sam Kerr's absence. And, she's a player that can create something out of nothing. So I think she'll be extremely important in the next few games. Yeah,
a couple of ex-Adelaide United players in the side as well that you also played with, Alex Chidiac, Charlie Grant as well. Tell us about those two and how proud you are of the journey that they've taken to get to the Matildas.
Yeah, I know both of those girls really well, and I'm very familiar with both of their journeys and how hard they've had to work to get to where they are. And I was with Charlie when she first moved to Sweden, and Chids I grew up playing with, and have seen her play in Spain and Japan and have tough times and show the resilience to come through those and get her spot in the World Cup roster. So I'm extremely proud of those girls. They're two very close friends of mine, and I hope they're just soaking it up and enjoying the moment.
Absolutely. You coach Charlie Grant as well. As a coach of a player who goes on to play for the national team, what kind of feeling does that give you? Is it a sense of pride? What is it that you feel?
Yeah, pride, but not for myself or for our team, but mainly for those individuals. And I just think it's great that we're having a discussion about players from Adelaide in the national team setup, because for a while there, it just wasn't happening. So to see those two come through, I've also got Dylan, who's played a game with the Matildas as well, and Matilda McNamara and Emily Condon is part of our squad that's played for the Matildas too. So it's just great that as a state, a footballing state, we're able to provide some quality players that can play for the national team.
So on the back of this then, how does the A-League women's competition capitalise? There's a huge boom. We've seen massive crowds right across the country. The interest is there in women's football. So how does the A-League women's competition capitalise on the back of this to ensure we see a similar boom to what we've seen in England after their Euro success?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different here because of the context of our sporting landscape. Like, we're in a very crowded sporting market, not just for the women, but for the men as well. But I just think that people need to get out and support our A-League women's soccer players, because the product is really good. Like, we're not that far off being one of the best leagues in the world. And you can see with the Matildas, they're quite highly ranked, and I think they're going to do really well in this tournament. So the quality is there. We just need the community to get behind and support our players.
As someone who plays in that competition, the A-League women's competition, what impact, what legacy and what impact would you like to see this tournament have going forward over the next couple of years?
I think for me, the biggest legacy I would like to see is people that maybe haven't been exposed to much women's football getting that exposure at this level, and you know, hopefully realizing how good of a product it is, and you know, coming out to A-League women's games, not just A-League men's games, and really getting behind the women's game at all levels. So yeah, I'm hoping that this just opens the door for so many more people to get interested in women's football.
All right, I'll come back to you guys in a second. Of course, Brazil-Panama going on behind me. Again, another day of no action for the Asian teams, but that won't be the case for much longer. The Philippines play their second match tomorrow in Wellington against New Zealand. I spoke to a former player of theirs, Cam Rodriguez, a little bit earlier to get her thoughts on the Philippines campaign and what she expects from that match tomorrow. Yeah, Cam, thanks very much for joining us here on the Asian Game. Pleasure to have you on the show with us today. I know you would have loved to have been there in New Zealand. You've been a part of this side throughout the campaign up until this point. So as a member of that team throughout the campaign, as I said, what were the emotions that you had when you got to see the Philippines walk out there, their first ever game at a FIFA World Cup, men's or women's? As someone who's been on that journey, what was that moment like for you, and what were the emotions that you were feeling?
I was feeling a lot of pride, gratitude, and just humility to have witnessed such a long and challenging and very rewarding journey. I mean, I started with the national team when I was 14, so that's more than a decade in the game representing the country. And really, from where we started to like the highest level of women's footballing here in the world, you know, it's just a lot of. I'm just so proud to be part of this journey and to see the team grow to where it is now. And a lot of emotions, seeing my teammates, knowing what we've been through the past 2 years, preparing for this moment. And, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I shed a few tears even if I was in public.
I'm sure you're not alone with that one as well. You mentioned a little bit of the journey. It's been a 3-year journey up until this point in some ways. Your journey, as you said, goes back even further than that. Can you just tell us a little bit about that journey over the last decade for you and what that's been like?
Yeah. So when I started with the national team, our parents had to push for tournaments, for games, for trainings to happen. And when you compare it to what it is like today and what are the tenets of success to create a professional, high-level, successful team that qualifies into the World Cup, the gap is very huge. And I'd say in the past decade, that gap has been smaller and smaller. And even though we have so much more to go, I'd say that we're on the right track. I mean, we have qualified for the World Cup, so we have done something right. And I believe that starts with good investment from our team manager. So the journey of the team the past 2 years, qualifying into the Asian Cup and then the World Cup, looks a lot like different camps across continents. It looks like a lot of time away from family, spending a month or two, at one point even 3 months in a foreign country, just training together, making sure that we know what the team plan is, what the team identity is going to be. And it is a lot of work, but this work has paid off and it continues to pay off now as we witness the Philippines compete against high level teams.
As I said, unfortunately, you couldn't be there. I'm sure you'd have loved to have been there, whether as a player or just as a fan as well. Probably got the next best experience. You were telling me you're back in the Philippines. You hosted a live viewing party back in the Philippines. Can you tell us what are the levels of excitement like back in the Philippines for this tournament? The host party, the viewing party that you got to watch, there were a lot of people there, you were telling me. So what type of excitement is this generating back home in the Philippines?
Yeah, there is a lot of buzz and excitement, and you could see brands starting to get involved, and that's what we need, right? Exposure, a platform, and really just a place for people to get together and celebrate the success that we have had as a national team. And um, I just want to give a shout out to Ultras Filipinas. So they are like um, this very energetic group of supporters that come to every game, men's, women's football game, and they were there in the watch party last July 23 in their first game. And they had their drums along, they had their cheers ready, their scarves. So you really could feel like you were in the game, watching the team live. And that's what football is all about, right? Making sure that everyone's getting together, celebrating each other. And in the Philippines, there's a big value called pakikisama, meaning it's just being with each other. And that's exactly what I felt when I was in the host party. And I'm sure all the Filipinos, wherever they're at in the world, and even here in the Philippines, would have felt that, because that's so innate to our being Filipino, that we love we love partying, celebrating with one another. Yeah.
Let's talk about the match now. You had, as I said, it was a 2-0 loss to Switzerland in that opening game. Thought you'd taken the lead in the first half. Looked like it. The celebrations, I'm sure there were celebrations where you were as well. Ruled out, unfortunately, has to be said correctly, for offside. Switzerland got on top in the second half of that game. What were your ultimate impressions of the game and how the Philippines performed in that one?
Yeah, I thought the team did really well. We know that our defensive discipline is our strength, and we were able to showcase that against such a high ranked team like Switzerland. And I'm proud of my team because I know what it takes to showcase that level. And I feel like we could have done a little bit better in the ball, transitioning from our defense to our midfield all the way to that attack. And I think our first goal showed what we can do as a team. And as long as we just keep trying and keep pushing, um, our next few games versus New Zealand and Norway should be very exciting.
You got the next match, as you said, against New Zealand tomorrow in Wellington. On paper, coming into this tournament, that probably looked like the easiest game on paper, given New Zealand's form heading into this tournament after the win they got in their opening game. Certainly not going to be that way now. They'll certainly have their backups coming into this game. So what are you expecting from that game, and what are you expecting from New Zealand tomorrow?
I mean, it's the World Cup. Every country is going to be fighting for their nation and going to be showing out the way that they want to. I expect New Zealand to come out very strong, very proud. They are the hosts of the World Cup, so for sure the hunger and the firepower will be there. But I believe that the Filipino spirit and the Filipino laban or fight can equally match that. And with all the kababayans or countrymen coming out to support the team in the matches, they could easily make it their home, their home turf advantage also. And I feel like the team also benefits from that. So whoever's watching the New Zealand versus Philippines game, please, please, please show your support and be as louder, even louder for our Filipinas.
It'll be a sold out crowd too. I think the match is sold out as far as I'm aware. So 35,000 will be there in Wellington. Huge occasion. I'm not sure if or when the Philippines have ever played in front of a crowd that large before. What will that experience be like for the players?
It's going to be an experience like no other. It's our first time playing in a, you know, it's our first time being, sorry, let me start it again. It's our first time playing in a sold out crowd with 35,000 people cheering for both teams, and it's just going to be such a great environment. It's the games that you want to play for. Like that's the kind of game I want to be playing in as, a competitive player. So I feel like it's going to be a very, very exciting game for both teams.
And just finally, whatever happens for the remainder of this tournament, it's been a remarkable achievement for the Philippines to get this far. Nobody thought this was possible when this journey started out ahead of the Asian Cup last year. There's been reports here in the Australian media that the coach Alan Stachich will return here to coach potentially in the A-League men's competition, setting linked to a return to Perth Glory. Where does this team go from here, and what does this do for women's football in the Philippines? How can it sort of catapult off the back of this tournament?
I believe reaching this point in history for the Philippine team just shows how much more we can do as a team. This is something we could have only dreamed of 10 years ago, 20 years ago, but we're here now, and we know the ingredients and the steps that we need to create such a high level performing team. And I would believe that this would be a challenge to us all, players, staff, federation, to keep continuing this growth for the team, because we showed that we can do it. But the even bigger challenge is, how can we do it again and again and again, and even better?
And thanks to Cam for that one. I'll just come back to you again, Dylan. We spoke of some of the former Matildas players you played with. You had a season in Sweden as well, a star-studded side that you played with there. A lot of those players are here at the World Cup. Do you keep in touch with those players? Are you following their journey? Are you supporting them as well? You got the likes of Stina Blackstenius at Arsenal, Johanna now who's at Chelsea as well. So many more have gone on to bigger and better things. Are you excited to see them? Are you going to any of their games at all?
Well, unfortunately, all the Sweden games so far are in New Zealand.
Of course,
so
yes.
That was, when I saw the draw, I was a bit devastated. But I've been following them closely. The game that they played yesterday, they had 4 starting players that I played with at Häcken, so that was really cool to see. And I have friends in the Danish team too, so it's nice to know some of the players in the teams and have that connection. And I'm really excited to support those girls through this.
You're telling me before we came on air the journey that you're taking over the next couple of weeks. Just tell us where you are going, because you are jet setting across the country over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so my family went absolutely crazy, and we got tickets to all the Adelaide games, all the Melbourne games, and all the games at Stadium Australia. So we are, here, there, and everywhere. It's going to be a wild 4 weeks, but it'll be so worth it.
Absolutely, once in a lifetime experience. Just finally for you then, Adrian, Matildas have got their next game in 3 or 4 days' time, I think it is, in Brisbane against Nigeria. Of course, there'll still be no Sam Kerr for that one. You said the performance perhaps wasn't the best against Ireland the other night. What are you expecting then in that game against Nigeria?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough game because Nigeria played quite well. So I'm expecting more of the same, though. And what will be interesting to see is how the squad is used, because there wasn't a lot of changes that happened in the first game, and they did come quite late. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes with the same starting lineup or rotates the squad a little bit from the start, or at some point I'd imagine they'd need to do that. But tactically, I think it'll be fairly similar.
Yeah, absolutely. Adrian, Dylan, thanks very much for joining us. That's where we will leave things for today. We're about to head inside and check out this match between Brazil and Panama. As I said, a legend of football, Marta, gracing Hindmarsh Stadium. Never thought I'd see the day. Thanks very much again to our sponsors, SMC, for making all of our coverage possible. And we'll be back again tomorrow with another episode of the Asian Game podcast here at the FIFA Women's World Cup.